Picture this. For decades, Canada, Mexico, and the United States strutted across the trade stage like North America's very own Three-Musketeers. One for all for one, and plenty of beers and pickup trucks to go around. Then, somewhere between the tailgate and the conference table, Washington began hollering, "Tariff!" the way a flustered neighbour yells, "Keep it down!" at every barbecue. Canada and Mexico didn't stay to argue. They just clinked glasses, slipped out the side gate, and started pouring concrete on a brand new billion-dollar trade corridor that steers clear of the loud house next door. While the man in the golf cart is still circling the lawn bragging about winning, shelves at home are thinning, inflation's climbing, and Detroit is waving goodbye to 360,000 electric vehicles a year, all rerouted by a quiet handshake between Ottawa and Mexico City. We didn't just misplace exports, we misplaced trust. And if this keeps up, America's leading export may soon be its friends. Fast forward to mid-2025. The once roaring trio is now a duet, and Uncle Sam is left crooning America First into the echo chamber. Canada, normally our maple syrup sweet neighbour, has stopped filling its grocery aisles with Minnesota corn and Iowa soy. US food exports north of the border have fallen 8.5%. Canadian tourists, lifeblood for border diners, and Vermont ski lodges crossed south, 33% less this June than last. Craft breweries in Michigan and quaint inns in Vermont are counting layoffs instead of bookings. Picture a border bridge that used to hum with trucks and day trippers. Now it's quiet enough to hear your own doubts. And those doubts grew from meetings that felt less like negotiations and more like cage matches. Washington kept flexing tariff receipts, forgetting that allies don't like being body slammed. Ottawa responded with something subtler and sharper, a $1 billion Canadian lifeline for domestic steel and supply chains. They didn't tweet threats, they wrote checks. Then they set tariff rate quotas that slice non-FTA steel imports in half and slap a 50% wall on anything above. "We felt like we were drowning," a plant manager in Ontario said. "Now someone's thrown a rope." Grocery chains ran with the vibe, pasting "Buy Canadian" tags on beef, apples, even frozen pizza. One Manitoba farmer grinned. "We're not just harvesting corn, we're harvesting independence." PwC projects the pivot could make Canada the go-to North American hub for clean steel and auto innovation by 2026. While Washington counts tariff pennies, Canada is welding a framework built to last. Enter the Northern Corridor, the banquet hall. Canada and Mexico are building down the road. Imagine a logistics pipeline worth $120 billion a year that never touches US soil. Up to 15 million tons of high-value cargo will glide from Mexican battery plants straight to Canadian Pacific ports. Buffalo's freight yards, skipped. American logistics firms stand to lose $11 billion in annual revenue. Blockchain customs clearances mean zero US paperwork, costing Treasury another $3.5 billion in forfeited fees. And those 360,000 EVs? They'll roll out of Ontario and southern Mexico, not Michigan, taking roughly 108,000 indirect American jobs with them. Long-term, the corridor locks in cheaper transport, cleaner energy footprints, and a front-row seat to European carbon markets. Officials hint it'll be fully humming by 2028, with at least $69 billion in diverted trade flows by 2026. In other words, even if Washington tears up its tariff playbook tomorrow, Canada and Mexico have already paved a bypass. Back home, the consequences hit where it hurts: wallets and assembly lines. Consumer prices rose 2.7% in June, up from 2.4%. Yet Ford's Louisville and Ohio plants sit idle for want of rare earth magnets, and GM's Warren Truck Assembly has slashed output. It's like baking a cake after you taxed the eggs out of reach. Towns that once cheered "Made in Detroit" are staring at silent factories while paying more for groceries, gas, and air conditioning. Meanwhile, America's other partners are sharpening their own tools. The EU just approved a €93 billion arsenal of counter-tariffs poised to slam Boeing jets and bourbon should Washington fire its next 30% volley on August 1st. Ottawa is tightening export controls on strategic minerals uranium, copper-bound for US buyers. Mexico and Canada aren't sulking, they're future-proofing. Because this was never only about tariff rates, it was about reliability. You don't threaten real friends, you don't flip a coin on partnerships that took generations to build. While the red hat crowd cheers short-term revenue, allies are quietly constructing futures where made in USA is optional. Empires rarely collapse from a single invoice. They crumble when handshakes stop feeling solid. So here's the final question. Who still believes in America enough to keep crossing that empty bridge? Drop your thoughts below and smash subscribe on Global Pulse so you never miss the next deep dive into the world's economic power plays. The world is redrawing its trade map right now. Decide where you want to stand.